It was a Thursday night, or technically Friday morning. 1:47 a.m. One of those liminal hours where the world feels like it's standing still, waiting for something to happen. Outside, the wind pushed gently against the windows, the last of the fall leaves rustling on the sidewalk. I was alone in the dining room, bathed in the amber light of a single hanging bulb, scrolling through my phone. Not reading, not really watching, just scrolling. The warmth of the room was misleading. There was a strange sort of cold in my chest. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was how long I'd been sitting there. Or maybe deep down I already knew. Then came the sound. A car easing into the driveway, tires crunching over loose gravel. Not loud. Familiar. I froze, phone in hand, listening. Like someone who just heard the front door creak open in a horror movie. My heart had already decided what my mind didn't want to admit. She was home. Candace, my wife of 6 years. Architect. Charming, driven, intelligent. The kind of person who seemed to light up any room she walked into. She had been in Austin for the past 4 days, attending what she called a high-intensity workshop for sustainable architecture. It wasn't unusual. Her job often had her flying to cities I only visited through postcards and airport layovers. Austin, Chicago, Santa Fe. There was always a lecture to give, a panel to join, a networking dinner with someone crucial for career growth. But this trip, this one felt different from the start. Her messages had been too cheerful, almost aggressively so. She was never the emoji type. Now suddenly every message came with hearts and winks and over-the-top exclamation marks. Just saw the cutest building downtown. Red heart, red heart. This hotel is amazing. Wish you were here, frowning face, yellow heart. I wanted to believe it was genuine, that she was just excited, busy, inspired. But I'd been with Candace long enough to know when she was being real, and when she was performing. The front door opened with its familiar creak, followed by the thud of her suitcase hitting the wood floor. I stayed seated. My thumb still flicked the screen, but I wasn't seeing anything. My ears strained, tracking every step she made. "Hey, babe," she chirped, peeking her head around the hallway. She was glowing, literally. Her skin had that post-spa softness. Her eyes were bright, alert. Her lipstick was still perfect. She looked like she'd just come from a wine bar, not a flight. "You're still up." I nodded. "Couldn't sleep." She floated into the room, tossing her coat over the chair, then pulling out her phone again. Her fingers danced across the screen, thumbs moving at lightning speed. She giggled. Not at me, at the screen. "Conference went well?" I asked. "Yeah," she said, too fast. "Really productive. Great networking. There was this talk on modular eco-design that was actually fascinating. We stayed late every night going over case studies. Honestly, I'm exhausted. Exhausted, but smiling like she just won the lottery." She wandered into the kitchen, opened the fridge, pulled out a bottle of water. Still giggling, still texting. I watched her from across the room. The sway in her walk, the rhythm in her voice, the kind of joy that didn't feel meant for me. "You okay?" I asked. She glanced up. "Yeah, totally. Just..." She looked back at her screen. "Tired." And then she was gone, off to the bedroom with her suitcase in tow. I stayed seated for a moment longer, staring at the empty hallway where she'd disappeared. Something about her tone, her presence, felt wrong. Manufactured, like watching someone act in a commercial. Not because they were excited, but because they were supposed to be. The silence after she left the room was louder than her voice had been. Eventually, I got up and wandered toward the bedroom. The door was halfway shut. I was about to knock when I heard her voice. Quiet, but hurried. Almost a whisper. "No, Noah, not now." My breath caught. I waited. Nothing else. Just silence. Then the sound of the suitcase being unzipped, followed by some shuffling. I pushed the door open just a crack. Candace was sitting at the edge of the bed, still dressed, hunched over a sheet of paper in her hands. Her face was pale now. Still, whatever it was, it had wiped the glow right off her. I stepped in. "You good?" She flinched, actually flinched, and quickly stuffed the paper into her suitcase. Oh yeah, just some work notes. From the workshop. Her voice was higher than normal, almost chirpy. She stood up too quickly, brushing past me toward the bathroom. I'm gonna shower. Feel gross from the flight. I nodded and sat on the edge of the bed once she shut the door. The suitcase was open. Her clothes neatly folded, too neatly. I wasn't even sure she had worn most of them. And that's when I saw it. Something tucked beneath her rolled-up scarf. A black velvet box. Small, elegant. Curiosity, no, instinct got the better of me. I opened it. Black lace. New. Delicate. Lingerie. And under the box, a handwritten note on hotel stationery. For when we're finally alone. My stomach dropped. It was like every molecule in the room turned to ice. I just sat there, staring at the words. Her voice echoed in the bathroom. The sound of the water running behind the door suddenly felt miles away. The note wasn't for me. She didn't buy the lingerie for a solo hotel spa night. And no one leaves that kind of note for a coworker. I put the box back exactly as I found it and closed the suitcase. She stepped out of the shower 15 minutes later, wrapped in a towel, pretending like everything was normal. Hair wet, cheeks flushed. Can you believe how humid Austin is? She said with a laugh. I felt sticky the whole time. I nodded. She crawled into bed beside me like nothing had happened. Said she was too tired to talk. Rolled over. Slept like a baby. But I stayed up. Eyes wide open. Staring at the ceiling. That one line of handwriting playing over and over in my head. For when we're finally alone. Whoever he was, they'd already been alone. And something told me this was just the beginning. That night, I didn't sleep. I laid there next to her, my eyes fixed on the ceiling, feeling the quiet rise and fall of her breath beside me. The room, once familiar, now felt like foreign ground. Every creak in the floorboards, every flicker of wind outside the window seemed sharper, louder, like my senses had turned all the way up. She shifted in her sleep around 3 a.m., letting out a soft sigh. I turned slightly, just enough to see her face. She looked peaceful. Undisturbed. Innocent. It made something in me ache. I thought about the note again for when we're finally alone. The handwriting had been soft, curved. In asterisk mate. There was no name, no signature, just intention. Clear, unmistakable intention. By morning, the air between us was different. She acted normal, made coffee, asked about my week, even joked about the neighbor's dog who'd apparently barked all night. It was almost theatrical. Her laugh felt like something pulled from a script. Like she was auditioning for the role of guilty wife pretending to be happy. Anything planned for today? She asked, sipping from her mug. Just work, I said flatly. Emails, meetings. Same old. She smiled too brightly. Well, let me know if you want to grab lunch. I was thinking of making the chicken pasta you like. I nodded. She walked past me and I noticed again how glued she was to her phone. The way she tilted it away as she typed. The flick of her finger as she minimized the screen every time I glanced her way. All the signs were there, blinking like warning lights I didn't want to see before. But now? I saw everything. Around noon, she disappeared into the bedroom for a video call. At least, that's what she claimed. The door was mostly shut, but not all the way. I heard her laugh, high, breathy, then a pause, then her voice lowered. No, not now, he's here. Silence. Then, more softly, I said not now. I'll message you later. I walked past the door quietly and peeked inside through the crack. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, her back slightly hunched, staring at a piece of paper in her lap again. Her phone was beside her, screen still lit. Her eyes looked distant, unsettled. Like whatever she was reading wasn't easy. Or maybe wasn't for her. Everything okay? I asked from the hallway. She startled, her body literally jerked. Oh. Yeah, she said too quickly. Just work stuff. Some project notes I scribbled down. Trying to make sense of them. Anything I can help with? She shook her head, already folding the paper and tucking it under a notebook. Nah. Just architect brain fog. I'll figure it out. She smiled again, but it didn't reach her eyes. Later that evening, I waited until she went to the store to pick up groceries. I knew I only had a short window. I opened her suitcase again. The note was gone. So was the lingerie box. She'd hidden them somewhere else. But I found something else. A receipt from a boutique lingerie store in Austin tucked into the side pocket of her carry-on. The date, 2 days ago. Time, 8:14 p.m. A handwritten thank you note from the cashier was stapled to it. Enjoy your night, you looked stunning in the black set. I sat down slowly, holding the slip of paper like it might burn me. I couldn't breathe for a second. There was no explaining that away. No work-related excuse for a $180 lingerie set and a flirty note from a stranger. This was real. And yet, part of me still didn't want to believe it. I closed the suitcase, tucked the receipt into my own drawer, and sat in silence until I heard her car pulling back in. She walked in humming, smiling, carrying a bag of groceries like nothing was wrong in the world. "I got your favorite granola bars," she said cheerfully, tossing them on the table. "Also, the good wine, figured we could unwind tonight." I smiled back thinly. "Sounds nice." But inside, something had started to crack. After dinner, I pretended to be exhausted and went to bed early. But I didn't sleep. I laid there and listened as she stayed up watching a show, texting, laughing softly to herself again. Around midnight, she climbed into bed beside me, her scent still fresh from a late shower. I kept my breathing steady, pretending to sleep. She didn't cuddle up like she usually did. Just turned away, scrolled her phone for a while longer, then turned it face down and fell asleep. The next day, I waited until she was in the shower. I unlocked her phone, same passcode she'd always used. I felt sick doing it, like I was the one violating her trust. But what trust? That had already been broken. Most of her chats were boring. Group messages with coworkers. Family chain texts. A few Pinterest boards. Then I saw the name, Lucas Hayes. Not saved with emojis. Not hidden under a fake contact name. Just Lucas Hayes. The chat opened to a sea of blue and gray. Dozens of messages. "Last night was perfect. I still smell your shampoo. When can we do this again?" Photos. My stomach flipped. One of them was of her at a bar wearing makeup and a low-cut dress I'd never seen before. She was holding a man by his tie, Lucas, I assumed, and the look in his eyes wasn't casual. It wasn't friendly. It was desire. Unfiltered. Raw. She was smiling. Not the smile she gave me when she wanted to seem okay. This one was real. That image is burned into my brain. It wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a close coworker, a drunk mistake, or an innocent flirtation. This was a full-blown affair. I closed the chat, returned the phone, and sat on the edge of the bed in total silence. She came out of the bathroom a few minutes later, wrapped in a towel, hair dripping wet. "Hey, you okay?" she asked, tilting her head. "Just tired," I said. She nodded. "Me too. That flight wrecked me." She climbed back into bed, her body brushing against mine. I didn't move. I couldn't. That night, I couldn't even cry. There were no tears. No outburst. No immediate confrontation. Just a stillness. A numb quiet that settled into my bones. I didn't know what to do next. But I knew one thing, I wasn't going to let this be swept under the rug. Not this time. Not with evidence staring me straight in the face. She was still smiling. Still texting. Still laughing. But something was coming. And she didn't even see it. The day after I found the messages, something inside me changed. There wasn't some dramatic breakdown. I didn't throw furniture or scream into a pillow. I didn't even cry. What I felt was colder than that, a kind of clarity that scared me a little. I saw her exactly as she was now. No filter. No softness. Candace had crossed a line, and the moment I saw that photo, her hand gripping Lucas Hayes by the tie, her eyes lit up like he was her world, something in me had snapped. I could still see it even when I closed my eyes. The dress she wore in the photo wasn't one I recognized. Dark red, off-shoulder, elegant. Not work casual. Not even fancy dinner attire. This was bought for someone. For a night that was planned. And the way Lucas looked at her. I'd never looked at her like that. At least, not in years. And she hadn't looked at me that way either. It wasn't just infidelity. It was an asterisk Macy. Real an asterisk Macy. Shared smiles, inside jokes. He knew her in ways I thought were mine alone. That's when I knew this wasn't an accident. It wasn't a lapse in judgment or some midlife spiral. It was deliberate. Calculated. Hidden. Candace didn't just lie, she lived a whole other life for 4 days and maybe longer. I couldn't ask her about it. Not yet. I needed to know how deep it went. I needed more than messages and a photo, I needed facts. I needed to confirm everything before I made a move. Because the way she smiled at me when she asked if I wanted pasta for lunch, that wasn't guilt. That was someone who believed she'd gotten away with it. And that, more than anything, pissed me off. So I started watching her. For the next few days, I acted normal. I let her think everything was fine. She didn't know I'd seen the texts. She didn't know I had read her words. I didn't want it to end. Can't wait for New Mexico. New Mexico. That line hit like a punch. They weren't done. They weren't winding down. They were making plans. On Tuesday, I took the day off from work and drove out to the edge of town to meet someone I never thought I'd need, a private investigator. Thomas Banner. Middle-aged, ex-military, sharp eyes and zero fluff. "You're not the first guy to sit in that chair," he said after I told him everything. "But you might be one of the calmest." "That's good. It means you're thinking clearly." "I don't want revenge," I told him. "I just want the truth. All of it." He nodded. "I'll find it. Just don't stop acting normal. The second she thinks you know something, she'll start covering her tracks." So I didn't. At home, I still laughed when she told jokes. I still texted her from work. I even brought her coffee one morning like I always did. A K** led me. Every moment felt like I was playing a character in a play written by a liar. But it paid off. Within 5 days, Thomas came back with footage. Candace hadn't met Lucas at a hotel in Austin like she claimed. They had rented a small cottage outside the city in a town called Driftwood, about 25 minutes out. Romantic, quiet, rural. It wasn't in her name or his. It was booked through a third party. Thomas showed me stills from a motion-activated camera he'd set up near the entrance. There, he pointed. And there they were. Friday night, arriving around 8 p.m. dressed to K**LL. Lucas had his hand on her lower back. She was smiling at him in that same way that I'm yours look. Saturday morning, leaving together. Hair messy. Sunglasses on. Smiles casual. Comfortable. Sunday evening, returning again. Carrying a grocery bag and what looked like a bottle of wine. Monday morning, leaving in separate cars. She wore a business blazer like she'd just left a meeting. He kissed her on the cheek as they parted. "You said she flew back Monday night?" Thomas asked. I nodded. She lied. She was here. With him. All weekend. I didn't respond. I just stared at the images. The evidence. Each frame a dagger. And yet, the worst wasn't even the photos. It was the itinerary Thomas printed off her email account, New Mexico. A weekend getaway booked 2 weeks from now. Same alias, same third-party name. She wasn't ending it. She was building a second life. That night, I stood outside on our porch with a beer in hand, watching the sun go down like I had 100 times before. But everything felt different. The air was thicker. My skin didn't fit right. Candace came out barefoot, smiling, wrapped in a throw blanket. "You okay?" she asked, leaning against the railing. "Yeah," I said. "You've been quiet lately." "Just work," I replied. "Stuff piling up." She nodded, taking a sip from her wine glass. "Well, you know I'm here if you need to vent." The hypocrisy made my jaw clench. Later, as she showered, I opened the drawer where I'd hidden the photos and the printouts. I laid them all out in front of me, one by one. Evidence. Undeniable. Meant for the confrontation I was preparing. It would come. Not yet. But soon. She was planning a trip. So was I. I'd let her believe her secret life was safe. That she could walk around our home, touch me, kiss me, lie to me, and I'd smile back, none the wiser. But the truth was I already had the story. The characters. The plot. And I was getting ready to close the book. I've always thought of myself as a rational man. Calm under pressure. I never shouted during arguments, never punched a wall in anger, never let my emotions call the sh*ts. Maybe that's why this didn't break me, not in the way you'd expect. After Thomas handed me the last of the evidence, video stills, travel receipts, emails, I didn't spiral. I didn't sink into a bottle or beg her for the truth. I didn't do anything irrational. Instead, I sat down with a yellow legal pad and made a list. At the top, I wrote what I know. Underneath it, Candace lied about being in Austin. She spent 4 nights with Lucas Hayes in Driftwood. They booked the cottage under a fake name. There's another trip coming, New Mexico. 2 weeks from now. She's pretending like nothing happened. Then I flipped the page and wrote what I'm going to do. The first item, gather everything. Keep quiet. It felt like handling a business deal, cool, meticulous, efficient. My heart wasn't in it anymore. This wasn't about saving a marriage or getting revenge. It was about protecting myself. Making sure when the truth finally came out it was undeniable. That weekend, while she was out running errands, I copied every piece of evidence to a secure cloud drive and a flash drive I kept in my work bag. I labeled the folders with generic names. Nothing obvious. Then I changed the passwords on every shared account we had. Bank logins. Insurance portals. Even the Spotify family plan. It wasn't malicious. Just a preemptive separation. She was already living a double life, I just made the digital break a few steps ahead. The second thing I did, I called a lawyer. I didn't want a messy divorce. I didn't want drama or public spectacle. But I needed to be ready. Her name was Monica Tran. Calm, sharp, professional. She didn't blink when I laid out the details. Infidelity isn't criminal, she said, but it's leverage. Especially if you've got proof. I do, I said, sliding the flash drive across her desk. She plugged it in and clicked through the folders, photos, videos, messages. When she reached the itinerary for New Mexico, she paused. Has she admitted to any of this? Not yet. Monica nodded. When you're ready to confront her, make sure I'm the second person you call. The first should be your own reflection. I didn't understand what she meant until later. By the next week, I was living two lives too. During the day, I went to work, answered emails, joked with coworkers. At home, I cooked dinner, helped Candace with her car payment, listened to her talk about her day. I smiled. I nodded. I kissed her forehead at night. And every moment felt like I was wearing someone else's skin. Meanwhile, Thomas was still feeding me updates. Lucas Hayes had a wife. That part one didn't know. Her name was Natalie. Blonde. Real estate agent. Apparently, she was under the impression Lucas had been in San Antonio for a site evaluation. Thomas got a photo of her, young, elegant, the kind of woman who'd probably never suspect a thing until it was too late. That changed everything. Because now this wasn't just about me. This was bigger. The next day, Thomas called. You need to see this, he said. He sent over new footage, this time from a rental cabin north of the city. Not the Driftwood place. A new one. Booked under yet another alias. Date, last week. Candace and Lucas. Arriving separately. Leaving in the same car. The footage was shaky, but it didn't need to be high-def. Their body language said it all. Her hand on his knee. His arm wrapped around her shoulders. They were laughing. Comfortable. Not a fling. Not a mistake. A routine. I remember sitting there, staring at the screen, feeling nothing. No anger. No heartbreak. Just cold certainty. She wasn't going to stop. Even with all the risk. Even knowing she had a life, a husband, a home, she kept going. With the same man. In new places. It made everything simpler. That night, I lay beside her in bed, listening to her breathe, and whispered to myself. You're already gone. She didn't stir. The next morning, she told me she might need to fly out again. Another weekend workshop, she said, pouring coffee like she hadn't just made plans to cheat again. I looked at her. Really looked at her. And for the first time in years, I didn't see my wife. I saw a stranger. You sure you want to go? I asked. Yeah, she said, smiling. Why? I shrugged. Just seems like you've been gone a lot lately. She paused barely, then said, it's just work. You know how it is. And she leaned in to kiss me. I didn't pull away. But I didn't kiss her back. She didn't notice. That night, I reviewed the timeline again. The receipts. The emails. I added a few more notes to my folder. Lucas is married. They've met at least 3 separate locations. Upcoming trip, Taos, New Mexico. 3 nights. I printed the whole packet, slid it into a folder, and wrote one word on the tab. Truth. Then I waited. Waited for the right moment. Not out of fear, out of strategy. Candace had played her hand. She thought I didn't know. She thought she could keep living in both worlds forever. But soon, she was going to sit across from me at that dining table, just like always. And I'd show her exactly what I knew. Not with yelling. Not with emotion. With facts. Because love might have built this marriage. But truth would end it. It happened on a Sunday evening. The kind of evening that normally would have been reserved for takeout and reruns, a quiet wind down before the start of another work week. But that night, I set the table for something different. I brewed coffee instead of opening wine. I turned off the TV and let the silence sit. In front of me, a plain manila folder lay unopened, placed dead center on the table like a loaded P*N. The tab was marked in thick black ink, truth. Candace was upstairs taking a long shower, her usual Sunday ritual. A deep cleanse before Monday, she always said. I sat in silence, letting the house fill with stillness, with the weight of everything I'd been carrying for weeks. When she finally came downstairs, her hair was damp, twisted up in a towel, and she was wearing one of my old college sweatshirts, the one she always said was the softest thing in the world. It didn't hit me the way I thought it might. That kind of nostalgic charm was hollow now. Like a prop in a play that had already ended. She paused at the foot of the stairs, eyeing the coffee mugs, the folder, the way I was sitting, upright, hands clasped, expression unreadable. You okay? She asked. Yeah, I said. Sit down. We need to talk. Her face didn't change right away, but her eyes flickered just a bit. A subtle tightening around the mouth. Her body tensed as she walked slowly over and pulled out the chair across from me. She didn't speak. I gestured toward the folder. Before I say anything, I want to give you a chance to talk. Really talk. Not excuses. Not spin. Just the truth. Candace looked at the folder but didn't reach for it. Her arms crossed, her fingers lightly pinching her elbow. What's this about? She asked, a faint edge in her voice. Let's not do that, I said, leaning forward. You know what this is about. Another pause. Then she blinked. If this is about work, the trips, the conferences we've already talked about. I opened the folder. On top was the photo. The one of her at the bar, gripping Lucas Hayes by the tie. I slid it across the table. Her face drained of color. That, I said, is not a networking dinner. She didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't speak. I reached forward and flipped to the next page, a printout of her messages with Lucas. Last night was perfect. I still smell your shampoo. Can't wait for New Mexico. I met her eyes. New Mexico, huh? She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. I flipped the page again, a still image from Thomas's footage. Her and Lucas entering the Driftwood cottage, Friday night, smiling, close. Then another, them leaving the next morning, arm in arm. She reached out finally, fingers trembling as they hovered above the paper. Mark, it's not, she began. Don't, I said sharply. Don't insult me with that line. You knew exactly what you were doing. You made plans. You booked rentals under fake names. You spent 4 nights with him while telling me you were in Austin. Her eyes welled up. She looked down at the table like maybe if she stared hard enough, the evidence would disappear. Please, she whispered. Just let me explain. I pushed the folder aside, cleared the table between us, and folded my hands. Explain then. She swallowed hard. It wasn't supposed to go that far. It started at work. He was just someone I talked to between meetings. Then he started texting more often. Complimenting me. I don't know. I felt seen again. Seen? I repeated, the word catching in my throat. So you slept with him because he paid attention? She shook her head quickly. No. That's not it. It wasn't just that. I mean, things between us haven't been the same. You've been distant. I felt like you've been drifting away. I stared at her. So instead of talking to me, you booked a cottage with someone else? Tears streamed down her face now, unchecked. I didn't plan it like this. I swear. It just happened. One trip turned into 2, and by then I didn't know how to stop it. I stood up, not out of rage, but to pace. To breathe. You didn't know how to stop it? I repeated. You were planning another one, Candace. Taos. 3 nights. That's not a mistake. That's a commitment. I canceled it, she said quickly, as if that would fix anything. After I got back, I knew I had to end it. I turned back to face her. When? She blinked. What? When did you cancel it? She hesitated. Yesterday, she finally admitted. Yesterday, I echoed. Not after the first time. Not even after I kissed you goodnight and told you I loved you while you were texting him under the covers. You waited until you got caught. No, she whispered, shaking her head. It's not like that. Then tell me, I said, louder now. Tell me what it's like. Because from where I'm sitting, you've spent months lying, sneaking around, building something behind my back. She buried her face in her hands. I never wanted to hurt you, she sobbed. But you did, I said. Every time you smiled at me like nothing was wrong. Every time you came home and told me the trip was exhausting. Every time you acted like I was crazy for asking questions. I let the silence stretch until it became unbearable. Then I sat back down. You said you wanted to be seen, I said quietly. So look at me. Look at what you've done. She finally looked up, her eyes *T, her expression crumbling. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'll do anything. I'll go to therapy. I'll quit my job. Please, Mark. Don't throw this away. I shook my head. I'm not throwing anything away, I said. You already did. She reached for my hand, but I pulled it back. There's no coming back from this, I said. You didn't just cheat on me. You broke something I can't repair. I can't trust you. I can't even look at you the same way anymore. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. I'm moving out, I said. Tomorrow. The words hit like a gavel. Final. Unflinching. I'll be staying with Tyler for a while. And you'll hear from my lawyer soon. She tried to speak, to stop me, but I stood, picked up the folder, and walked to the door. This is the last lie you ever get to tell, I said before I left. You don't get to rewrite this story. I already know how it ends. And with that, I walked out. Moving out was easier than I expected. Candace cried when I packed my bags, standing in the hallway in one of my old hoodies, her arms wrapped tightly around herself like she could still hold onto something. But I didn't flinch. Not this time. Tyler, my oldest friend, had a spare room. No questions, no judgments, just space. The night I arrived, he handed me a cold beer and said, when you're ready, talk. Until then, sit. I sat. 4 hours. Let the silence do what words couldn't. Monica, my lawyer, moved fast. The evidence made everything clean, even clinical. I didn't want to ruin Candace. I wasn't out for blood. But I was done pretending she deserved my protection. She got her lawyer. She made offers. I declined. The apartment stayed with me. We split the rest. At first, Candace swung between pleading and rage. I get texts at 2 a.m., some were apologies, others were angry screeds about how I was giving up on us. But I didn't reply. The us she was mourning was gone the second she sent that first message to Lucas. And karma? It showed up fast. Turns out Lucas's wife, Natalie, found out too. Thomas sent me a screenshot of her Facebook post, 3 photos including the same one I had of Candace and Lucas at the bar. The caption read, "To my husband, may your lies rot with your charm. And to the woman who thought she was special, you were just next." The post went viral in their little design world. Candace's firm caught wind. She was put on unpaid leave pending review for violating professional boundaries during a client trip. That's when her texts really started getting desperate. But it didn't change anything. My peace wasn't up for negotiation. The day our divorce finalized, I stood in front of the courthouse and felt something unexpected, lightness. Like I could breathe again for the first time in months. A few weeks later, I found myself in a small cafe in Jacksonville. Tyler and I had come to visit an old college buddy, and I ducked out one morning for coffee. The place was quiet, sunlight spilling across checkered tiles, the smell of cinnamon and espresso curling through the air. That's when I saw her. She was reading a book, something literary, worn edges, no phone in sight. When it slipped off her lap and hit the floor, I picked it up. "Emma," she said, introducing herself with a real smile, the kind that doesn't hide anything. We talked. Laughed. She asked about my favorite author, not what I did for work. She listened when I spoke and didn't flinch at my honesty. I told her I'd just been through a divorce. She nodded and said, "You seem like someone who still knows who he is." And for the first time in a long time, I believed that. Candace's betrayal marked the end of one life, sure. But not the end of me. I'm not broken. I'm free. And I'm finally writing the next chapter, one page at a time.